Hello, a very warm welcome along to Sportsbet TV. My name is Paul Alster. I'm the resident racing expert here at Sportsbet, and I'm delighted to welcome you along to our first preview of Cheltenham Festival 2021. 4 wonderful days, of course, ahead. The first of them will be on Tuesday, the 16th of March, and we'll be tipping each and every day. And those of you that are new to the service, this isn't a service that looks to be tipping masses of winners at short prices, or in some cases, not so many winners at short prices. We're always looking for the value. We're looking to put up decent prices, mostly each way, many of them double figures. And that's why we've been so successful since we started way back in the summer of last year. Well, let me just say that I have 4 recommendations for you on day one of the Cheltenham Festival. Very quickly, before I forget, if you're new to the service, please press the subscribe button just below this screen and also the little bell icon so you'll be kept informed of all the new bulletins as and when they appear. And remember to tell all your friends about us and share this link with the greatest of pleasure. Now, just before I come to the Cheltenham tips for Tuesday, we gave 2 recommendations for Saturday. Let's tell you what happened there. First of all, Diego de Charmil did not run in the Imperial Cup at Sandown. The ground was just too testing for him, and it was actually a bog there, wasn't it? So just as well he didn't run. Our other recommendation on Saturday was Mum's Tipple, recommended at 5-1 for Ryan Moore and Richard Hannon. He won in terrific style. He went in at 9-2, so we just beat the odds ever so slightly. And he put up the kind of performance I hoped he'd put up when he was beaten on his reappearance. But certainly the 7 furlongs looks absolutely ideal for him. And I hope you were on. I know many of you were. And as ever, I'm grateful to you for all your support and the great comments that were sent after Mum's Tipple bolted in. Well, let's hope there'll be more of the same. One thing about the Cheltenham Festival is it's a marathon, not a sprint. So if we don't hit the target Tuesday, we'll be hoping that Wednesday, Thursday into Friday, you've got to keep your nerve at these big festivals and not start to panic. I'm hopeful we're going to make a really good start. And I'll take you to our very first selection on Tuesday, which is in the opening race. They start nice and early at 1:20 Tuesday, the Supreme Novices Hurdle. Now, we're recording this message early on Sunday lunchtime for technical reasons. I was stunned when I saw there's only the dead 8 runners in the Supreme Novices Hurdle, and but it is still a very good race. It does allow us to bet each way, a race won in recent years by the likes of Shishkin and Altior and Duvan, so it is always a tremendous contest in which Winnie Mullins has won 4 of the last 8 renewals, and I'm sure that Winnie Mullins is going to have a fantastic festival. I will be shocked if he's not top trainer. Anyway, he's got the hot favourite, hasn't he? Appreciate It. And this one will be hard to beat. It's really a very talented horse. Twice a Group 1 winner this season at Leopardstown. It beat Ballyadam by 3 lengths there last time out. But it isn't really a price. It's thin. It probably will win, but I wouldn't want to take the price. Metier is the horse that a lot of the British hopes are pinned on, but you'd have to be concerned that this quicker ground is going to find out Metier, who won in very testing conditions in the Tolworth Hurdle. Now, you've also got Soaring Glory, who won the Betfair Trophy Handicap Hurdle against very good seasoned handicappers, and John Dew's Charge is certainly not ruled out either. But having had to revise my selection, if I show you my paper, you can see this is like a sort of schoolboy's absolute essay style writing here, because I've had to scratch things out. My original selection was a horse called Kescon Risk, each way at a big price for Joseph O'Brien. That one may run on Wednesday in the Ballymore, so an early heads up about Kescon Risk if it runs. The one I have come down, though, in favour of was my second choice in the race for an each way selection, and this is Ballyadam. Ballyadam, who is now trained by Henry de Bromhead, having moved from Gordon Elliott's yard for very well publicised reasons, and Jack Kennedy takes the ride. Well, Henry de Bromhead's a terrific trainer. He won't have had to do very much with this horse, Ballyadam, who Gordon Elliott did very well with. He, of course, the winner of the Grade 1 Royal Bond Novices Hurdle at Fairyhouse. Now, he's got Appreciate to beat, but he's getting closer to Appreciated. Back at Christmas at the Leopardstown meeting, he was beaten 16 lengths by Appreciated, finishing fourth. And then last month back at Leopardstown, he was beaten only just over 3 lengths. And I thought coming round the home turn after the second last, he may well go very close to beating Appreciated. But on that very testing ground, he just didn't quite manage to reel Appreciated back in. I think the better ground will help. I'm very hopeful that the move, which is not ideal, let's be fair, so late on before a big fixture, the move from Gordon Elliott to Henry de Bromhead will have no ill effects. And at the time of recording, he's 5-1 each way with everybody. There are 8 runners. I think it's almost a bet to nothing to start off the meeting. If Appreciate for any reason runs below form or fails to prove quite as effective in this better ground, and remember, his only defeat came at Cheltenham. He did run very well in the festival bumper, went second, but he has been beaten at Cheltenham. His only defeat, I think the 5-1 each way is a bet to nothing for Ballyadam in the opener, the Supreme Novices Hurdle at 120. Now, I was going to tip you in the Arkle Chase. I fancied Franco de Port each way, but they've only come up with 6 runners. And I think Shiskin is going to be so hard to beat if he stands up. I think All Mankind will blast away and try and hang on in there. I can see him being headed off the home turn. But with just 6 runners, I don't think it's a race to get involved in for people like us who are looking for a prize. So no bet from me on the Arkle, although I do think Franco de Port will run better than his odds. So we go to the 2:30, the Ultima Handicap Chase. Now, this is always a really good 3-mile, 1 furlong event. My original selection was a horse called Goose Man, trained by Tom Taff, who has not been declared, which really has shocked me because I thought he was being prepared specifically for this. Maybe he's met with a setback, or maybe they're going to go to Down Royal on Wednesday, where he also has an engagement. Now, Happy Go Lucky for Kim Bailey is the favourite. He was really impressive when winning at Cheltenham in December and has only gone up £5. Every chance he's going to go well, around a 7-2 favourite in this 16-runner race, and most firms will be paying 5 places. Now, one thing I want to mention, those that follow me regularly will know this, but if you're new to the service, and I hope lots of you are new joining us for Cheltenham, it's so important to bet with a bookmaker who will pay you the SP if it proves to be bigger than the price you take. So do shop around and look for firms that are going to give you the SP if it's bigger than the price you take. Now, I could rattle through all sorts of horses in this race, but I'm going to come straight to the horse that I'm going to be siding with. And I've got my fingers crossed that there'll be a winner, not just for the North, but for Scotland. And I think I Right has got so much going for him. He's trained by Harriet Graham, who does really well. And remember, this horse, he ran in the RSA Chase last year, where he finished 5th to Champ. He's been doing really well this season. He put up a tremendous effort in the Ladbrokes Trophy at Newbury, the former Hennessy Gold Cup. He was second to Cloth Cap, who, of course, is Grand National favourite and has franked the form since. He then went and finished he ran very well indeed behind Taking Risks, when second to him in the Sky Bet Chase at Doncaster. And this is a horse for whom the anticipated drying ground is going to be a benefit. He has gone up in the weights. He's got plenty of weight on his back. But the one thing about this horse is he's a tremendous jumper. He's normally very fast and very accurate, tends to race close to the pace. So he'll be out of trouble in the fairly big field in case there's anything going on in behind. Now, Callum Bewley normally rides I Right, and he's done very well on the horse, but I'm afraid he's having to sit this out because of a suspension. But you'd hardly say it's a backward step in the fact that former champion Richard Johnson is going to be taking over. And I can see Johnson booting I Right into his fences. this great Scottish chaser coming up for him, and I can see him sticking on really well up the hill. So with 5 places on offer, he's second favourite with many firms. I think the 6-1 offered each way with the likes of Unibet and Betfred, and there'll be others, is a good starting point, especially if you're betting with a firm who's going to offer you the SP if it proves to be bigger. So for me, I write to win for Scotland in the Ultima Handicap Chase at Cheltenham in the 2:30. Now then, we come on to the first tremendous championship race, the Champion Hurdle. The big race on day 1 on Tuesday, due off at 3:05. Again, it has cut up to less runners than many people anticipated, but there are still 10, and they include last year's heroine Epatante for Nikki Henderson. She's trying again. She beat Sharjah in the race last year by 3 lengths. You'll recall it was a great effort. She was beaten by Silver Streak in the Christmas hurdle this year. So she does have a bit of a point to prove, I'd say. Now, Irish hopes rest with Honeysuckle, who's unbeaten for Henry de Bromhead. She's such a tremendous mare. And of course, she's won at Cheltenham before. She won the Irish Champion Hurdle, beating Abracadabras by 10 lengths. But this is going to be a different type of a challenge. I don't say she won't win, but I don't think she is going to be value. And then the other one of the big 3 is another one of the big British hopes, Goshen. Now, who on earth of us can forget what happened to poor old Jamie Moore last year in the Triumph Hurdle? Clear, 10 lengths clear, going down towards the last, only had to jump it, and the horse basically trod on his own foot after the landing and somehow managed to unseat Jamie. He was so unlucky. And the horse really lost his way after that. But he did bounce back in spectacular fashion in the Kingwell Hurdle at Wincanton. But quite how much that form is worth in that very heavy ground, I don't know. Conditions are going to be so much quicker. Goshen is going to go off out in front, and Honeysuckle's never going to be too far away. And I just wonder if he's going to prove as good as people anticipate. Now, having gone through this race a few times, I've come up with 2 that I've been really deliberating over to offer you. And I'll be quite honest with you that the 2 concerned are Silver Streak and Sharjah. Now, Silver Streak for Evan Williams, 3rd in the Champion Hurdle 2 years ago behind an Espoir d'Allen. He'll love the drying ground. He's a tough, honest, classy grey. He won the Christmas Hurdle comprehensively, outpointing Epatante, although it has to be said that some people did feel the mare was a bit below her best. He was 6th in the Champion Hurdle last year on soft ground, not disgraced. He is a grand sort, and I'm sure he's going to run well. But in the end, I've come down on the side of Sharjah. Sharjah is my each-way recommendation for the Champion Hurdle on Tuesday. For Willie Mullins, Paul Townend takes over because regular rider Patrick Mullins is an amateur, and amateur riders are not allowed to compete at this year's Cheltenham Festival because of the COVID restrictions. Now, Sharjah is 3 times a Grade 1 winner of the Matheson Hurdle. He's run so well in so many other races, and indeed, he was runner-up to Epatante last year, a race in which Patrick sat quite a long way off the pace before making relentless progress as they raced down the hill to the second last and then sweeping around the home turn. I thought going to the last he might catch the mare, but he just couldn't quite get there. Now this year, under Paul Townend, I'm hoping he's going to be held up, but not quite so far off the pace. And on this better ground, which he does act very well on, I think that he can be finishing to some effect, especially if they're going to go the strong gallop that Goshen and 1 or 2 others might be disputing. It could set it up for one coming from off the pace. And so I think that Sharjah is just given the edge for me for the each-way recommendation ahead of Silver Streak. But if you love a galloping grey and a bit of a fairy story, I'm sure quite a few of you will be with Silver Streak. But I'm going to keep my attention on Sharjah, who at the time of the recording is 16-1 each way, with Bet365, Betfred and Mansion Bet, amongst others. Now, just one more word about the Champion Hurdle, and that is that Willie Mullins also runs an ex-French horse called James du Burlay, who has never run either in Ireland or Britain, and is giving him his very first start in the Champion Hurdle. This was a high-class horse in Ireland. I'm sure they think a huge amount of it. Indeed, from what I've seen and heard, they do think a lot of James du Burlay. And while I think he will run well, I just think it would be the most extraordinary performance to train this horse to win over English hurdles, first time out in a Champion Hurdle, no less. But he's obviously a horse who is very highly regarded. So I'll be watching with interest to see how James de Burlay goes in the Champion Hurdle. But I'm with Sharjah each way at 16s. And then for my final recommendation, I'm not tipping in every race at Cheltenham. There'll be plenty that give you a tip in every race. Quick way to the poorhouse, if you ask me. But a big price one here for you. In the 4:15, the Boodles Juvenile Handicap Hurdle. This is for 4-year-olds over 2 miles. A race that Gordon Elliott's stable have won 3 times in the last 8 years. And Paul Nicholls has won twice in the last 6 years. And Paul Nicholls has the very warm favourite, Ogris, who was third to Adagio in the Grade 1 at Chepstow on his only run in Britain. That was a very good first effort. And off a mark of 128, you can understand why so many people think he's got the look of a good thing, because he could easily be a very good graded horse. But he's a shortish price for this very big field, and a lot can happen and a lot can go wrong. And there are so many with chances. But I'm sure those of you that watch these bulletins on a weekly basis will know I follow the Irish form very closely, because I do a lot of broadcasting on internet radio on Irish racing. And there are a number of horses from Ireland who are very likely to go well here, including the likes of Coltor for Dermot Weld, Bustleton and Druid's Altar for Joseph O'Brien, Willie Mullins' Yondor amongst his runners, and Zafanian for Dennis Hogan. But for me, the key piece of form here is the Boxing Day race that took place at Leopardstown. The Grade 2 Knight Frank Juvenile Hurdle is always a very good race. Now, that race was run and won by Zarahia. And Zarahia is a very high-class horse who is hot favourite for the Triumph Hurdle on Friday. Now, second in that race was Bustleton. He went on to be third in a Grade 1, behind the current second favourite for the Triumph Hurdle, Quilixios. Hador was the horse I picked out of the race as one to follow. He was an anti-post tip for me for the Triumph Hurdle, but he's not running due to a setback, which is unfortunate because I think he's very, very smart indeed. Fourth in the race was Saint Sam, who went on to be second in a Grade 1 to Quilixios. Then we had Autumn Evening in fifth, who was third to Druid's Altar at Naas. Druid's Altar, second at Fairyhouse, afterwards went on to win at the aforementioned race at Naas. And then last of the 7 was a horse called Jeff Kidder, who hasn't run since. Now, between the second horse behind Zarahia and the last horse, Jeff Kidder, there was only 5 lengths. And most of those horses, with the exception of Adore and Autumn Evening, are running in the Boodles, the former Fred Winter, at 4:15. And the thing that's really caught my eye here is the weights, because there was not a lot between them. But Saint Sam has to concede a stone to Jeff Kidder. Druid's Altar has to concede £10 to Jeff Kidder, even though he beat him only half a length. Saint Sam beat him 5 lengths. And I think Jeff Kidder for Noel Meade and Sean Flanagan is very well weighted. And I think he's been safe for this race. He'll return after an 80-day break. Is a horse who was second on hurdling bout to Longclaw, who will also run and also returns from a break. He was then second to Scholastic at Punchestown in September. He beat Big's Belief at Fairyhouse in November, and that one led all the way and put up a tremendous performance at Navan just the other day to win in a decent handicap. And then he was 7th in that Grade 2 at Leopardstown on Boxing Day, Jeff Kidder. And I've watched the race time and time again, and he really did run a very, very sound race. And I think he'll be suited by the better ground. And at the weights, I think he's been given a real chance. When you see that St. Sam, who has to give him a stone, only beat him 3 lengths at Leopardstown and is 6-1, how on earth is 33-1 available about Jeff Kidder when he's so much better off at the weights? So that's just an example of why I think he's a worthwhile long shot each way bet. Most firms are offering 5 places. He's generally 33-1. I'm sure you're going to find bigger, especially if you have a bid on the exchanges. So at a big price in the 415, Jeff Kidder each way for Noel Mead and Sean Flanagan in the Boodles Juvenile Handicap Hurdle. And that's about it for day one. Let's hope it's going to be a tremendous Cheltenham Festival, even though there are no punters there on course, no crowds, no bookies. We're going to be enjoying it from the comfort of our armchairs. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to get a good shout each and every day with our runners, selected runners, going very well indeed. So I wish you the best of luck. I hope you consider the horses that I've put up here. And let's keep fingers crossed we're off to a good start. Now, my second bulletin for Wednesday will be up on Tuesday afternoon. So this is up nice and early. I hope you'll consider these and look forward to you joining me later on in the week for day 2. Bye-bye for now from Sportsbet TV.